Hi, everybody. This is Tina with Rehatch Designs. Hope everybody's doing well today. I have a little of a different video for you. I'm going to be doing some, um, basically some Advent or countdown uh, crafts, three different ones. And I thought I would just kind of bring you along for the ride and see if you want to check out what I'm doing. I have this old frame that I got um, from a garage sale, and I got a stencil, and I have some rub-ons, and I have some other products. Everything will be listed in the description box of where I got it. I'm going to be using chalk paint on this, and it's already painted with chalk paint, so I'm not going to do anything, to the actual frame. It has a chalk paint finish on the yellow part and on the gray and white part. I am taping it off with some painter's tape because the yellow part's going to be the green, and the green is antique green by Folk Art Home Decor. And it's kind of a dark color, and the inside's going to be Milk Jug um, by Folk Art. And I don't want to get the green on the middle and have to, try and, get rid of that later. So it's the easier thing to do is to tape off the edges and, try and make it as neat as I can. Anyway, so I'm just going to tape it all off, and then we're going to be painting the outside or the yellow part. And I'm hoping that it just takes 2 coats, maybe even one with some touch up. And as you can see, it is a very kind of dark Christmas green. I love the color. It's really perfect for Christmas. Um, anyway, so I'm just going to go over the whole thing. And it looks like it probably will just take 1 coat, because it's not that hard to cover the yellow. I'm pretty sure that if it were a light color, maybe it would need 2 coats. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do all that and just go all the way around. And when I'm done, I'm just going to let it dry because, like I said, we have 3 different projects we're going to be doing today. So, and they're all basically similar. This board that I have. I used to do craft fairs, and this is something that I had left over. And, I'm going to, at the top, there was kind of like a bow with something on it, and I took it off, and it was hot glued, and there's some glue residue. So I'm going to get that off, and then I'm going to go ahead and just sand it, just because it's kind of a shiny surface because I had put a sealer on it, and the sandpaper will help give the piece some tooth so that the paint will stick. And I'm going to be using chalk paint, chalkboard paint from the dollar store, and I don't have it in its container because it busted open, but it's really good chalk paint, I think. And I'm going to do this whole piece, and it's only going to take 1 coat of this chalk paint. And so it shouldn't, take a lot when you have a dark color and the background's kind of dark. So, but it does really cover well. It's really, really thick, as you can see. And I don't know if I said this, but the other project that we started, that is a magnet board. So we're going to still do the countdown on that, but just in a different way. And this is obviously, it's a chalkboard. So we'll be doing it differently. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do the sides and everywhere on that, and I'll let it dry because I'm letting the other piece dry. And that's how, if you're doing multiple projects, for Christmas gifts, You just, start one, let it dry, go to the next one, let it dry, and then this is how I do it. So now I'm back to the other one, and it is completely dried, and I'm going to go ahead and go in with my milk jug chalk paint. And if I had it to do over, I definitely would have put a primer down on this because it ended up taking 3 coats because it had the paint was fine, but it was just there was a lot of bleed through. You wouldn't think so on the gray. I didn't think it would, but it just kept showing through. So I have a feeling if I'd done a primer first, then in all likelihood I could have just gone maybe 1 coat after the primer. But anyway, and then also I made the situation worse because I did not let each coat dry in between. I was impatient, and then I had to like go back in and sand it and redo it, and I don't know. I don't have all that recorded, but I'm just giving you a heads up just to be patient, let it dry, and use a primer when it's you're using a light color over a darker color, because in the long run you're saving paint and time. So that's my 2 cents. Anyway, so I'm gonna go over this, and then I'm gonna let it dry. And like I said, I end up doing 3 coats of this. I don't bore you with all 3 coats, but just thought I'd let you know. Okay, so now I'm going back to the one that's done with the chalkboard, and I'm trying to decide what I want to put on it where. They have some really, really pretty rub-ons, and I can't decide which one I want where. So finally I do, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out my piece that I need. You have to, on these rub-ons, you can't really just do it from the sheet. You have to basically kind of semi-fussy cut the thing on with the bottom layer, with that white layer. You don't want to get rid of that white layer until you're ready to put it onto whatever you're working on. You kind of need that on there. So you basically just cut it out, and then you lay it where you think you want it and kind of position it. But you want to leave that white layer on. Anyway, I'm trying to decide where I want the stencil, if I want it on top or on the bottom, or anyway. So these transfers are decor transfers redesigned by Prima, or with Prima, and I really, really like these. I can definitely recommend them. And they have a lot of, it's 2 pages, and they have some really nice transfers. And for the money, I think they're very, very, very nice ones. So I think you would like it. I think they're steel compared to my other ones that I bought, my IOD ones. Those were really expensive. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut out all my pieces, and I'm going to put them where I think I want them, and then I'll add, if I think I need to add something. I really, do just the big pieces first, and then after I do the big pieces, I go back and I look and decide if I want to add anything. So that's kind of how I do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything positioned where I want it, just to make sure the stencil's in the right spot. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tape down the stencil, because I don't want it to move, while I'm stenciling. It wouldn't be a total disaster. I mean, you could definitely just paint right over what you did, so not a big deal. But why have the work? So I'm going to go ahead and take my milk jug chalk paint, and at first I use a stencil brush. I don't like how it's looking, so then I decide I'm going to go ahead and use a makeup sponge, And I take that makeup sponge and basically just take the flat part of the bottom and use it to pounce on the stencil. And I think that works really well for the paint. You want to be careful what paint you use. Chalk paint's pretty thick. If you use a thinner paint on a stencil, there's a really, really good chance for bleed through and, it gets under the stencil. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. This actually turned out really well, but I will say the look I was going for is like somebody had written in chalk, uh, or wrote whatever. um, I really wanted it to be a little bit lighter, and I think I could have just not gone over it the second time. I should have just left it alone, but I wanted to make sure that it was on there, and it turned out good. I mean, I think it turned out pretty good. Just a couple of the letters look a little blotchy, but not real bad, not at all, really. So anyway, now I'm going to go through and I'm going to position everything one last time where I need it. And you do it with the white part. You don't take that off, because once you take that white part off and you put it down, it sticks. It's sticky. So, and then what'll happen is the transfer will start to stick, and you're not going to get it off without losing part of what you're trying to transfer. So you want to leave that white part on until you're ready to permanently put it in that spot. So anyway, I do that, and I basically, the way I do it is I position everything because it's sticky. It's like tape, and you stick it down, and then I go in and I rub and I get all the pieces off. So anyway, that's just how I do it. I mean, I don't know if there's a way you're supposed to do it, but that's how I do it. Works for me. And you just basically take the little stick they give you and rub, and it's not hard to do, especially if you're using chalk paint and if your paint's dry. If your paint's not dry, it's not going to rub off very well, and it may even rub off some of your paint. So you really want to make sure that it's completely dry before you do it, because it'll cause some problems. And then, the same if you wax it and then you do it. Anything that you're going to put it on, you want to make sure it's completely dry. That's pretty much kind of important. And then you take the corner and you start trying to peel it up. And if it doesn't peel up, if it doesn't look like it's the stencil, the transfer laying down on your project like it's supposed to, then you go back in and you rub again, and it'll eventually just come down. You do a little bit at a time, because if for some reason the transfer has not transferred, like maybe you didn't rub that section or something, you just lay it right back down, and then you just can peel it off. But if you pull the whole thing off, it's going to pull the transfer off, and you're not going to be able to put it right back on where you had it. So you really need to do just a little tiny section at a time and pull it up and look and see. Make sure that it's down, the transfer. And if it's not, lay it back down and just rub some more. So it's not hard to do at all. The number one thing is make sure your paint is dry, or whatever your subsurface is dry. Because if it's not, it's going to cause you a lot of problems. So anyway, I love how these look when they're done. It has a very matte finish to it. And it has, it just looks like you've painted this, really cool thing on it, which of course I cannot paint at all. I barely can paint, just these surfaces. But anyway, this is really kind of a fun project for me because, I do journals all the time. So you may want to, go look in your stash and see what you got. And, like I said, I've given everybody I know pretty much at least one, if not more, journals. So I have a few people in mind, and I am going to maybe put some of these in my Etsy shop. Um, so you can kind of look in there and see if I do. It just depends on how many I get done because I have presents I need to do, and if I do extras, then I'll put them in there. But um, you know, people expect handmade things from me, so it's just I can't go out and just get a coffee mug and give it to them. It just wouldn't be me. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and add a few extra little things that I found. I thought the middle part was just kind of wanting something, you know what I mean, in the middle. It just seemed like it was just wanting that. So I put these little pine cones in there, and then later I put the little holly in there on the bottom because the bottom looked kind of like, I don't know, it just needed something. It looked kind of just plain, I guess. Like I had something on top and then I just plopped something on the bottom, and I wanted it to all kind of coordinate. So anyway, so I am going to go ahead and put all the little extra pieces on, and just make sure I have everything balanced in the way that I want it and where I want it. Same thing as I did on top. But I put those pieces down there because it really did, I don't know, I think it really did a good job of completing it. I just like bring some of that color down to the bottom. So anyway, I've got those two that I'm going to put down. Same process. It's really, once you do one or two of them, you'll get the hang of it. But most important thing is make sure your surface is dry. Okay, so I went ahead and sprayed that with a matte finish by Arlene's, and I'm going to let it dry. And now I'm going over my green frame with a clear wax, just because I'm going to be doing some antiquing wax later on top of the clear wax. But the reason I'm doing that is because if you take chalk paint and you put antiquing wax on it, it's going to just absorb it immediately, and it's hard to get it, to wipe a lot of it off. And I don't want a lot of it. I just want some of it to stay. And if you don't put the clear wax down first, it'll just absorb and, it'll get really dark. So if you've ever chalk painted like furniture or something, and I remember my sister did that. She couldn't understand why her stuff looked so dark and blotchy. And it was because you can't really wipe it off. It just sucks it in. So the clear wax is to kind of, seal it. It seals the chalk paint, and on top of that, it allows you to wipe off your other antiquing wax. That's what I was trying to say. There we go. So I'm just putting the clear sealer on now, and it doesn't take very long, maybe 30 minutes to dry or something. It's not really, if that, I don't even think it takes that long. But anyway, I'm going to do that. I'm going to let it dry. And now we're going to go to our next project. I told you we had 3. We got a lot going on here. This is a $1.25 little tin pan from the Dollar Tree. And we're going to use it as a magnetic board also. And we're going to just make a smaller version of the little countdown. And what I'm covering it with now is just some primer, just because it is a shiny metal surface, and you have to have something for your chalk paint to stick to. And so I'm going to be doing that and after I do the front and the back, we'll let it dry. And it does take a little while for the primer to dry. You know, you could definitely take it outside and spray it with primer, but, you know, I'm doing this, you know, here. So you guys, you know, in real time, only speed it up here. But, so anyway, I do that, and I just do one coat of primer. Okay, so I let that dry, and now I've got my DOS clay out, air dry clay, and my different molds that I have. And on my green little frame, I want to put these little what do you call it? I don't know, little holly or whatever, and the other one has holly and pine cones, and I just want to put these little things on the actual green part. And this is air dry clay. If you haven't ever worked with it, it's really, really fun. I love it. I mean, I guess it's, you know, brings back memories of when you're a kid and playing with clay, and it's just really fun. It's also great to use these pieces like on journal covers and stuff like that, because they're extremely lightweight. So, you know, it's basically a paper clay. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put cornstarch inside of my molds. That is really, really important because it allows the clay to release. And then I'm just going to take a wad of clay and press them in my molds and go ahead and make, I think I make 4 of the little hollies and then the other 6 of those little sprig things. So I had to make several of them, and you take them out of the mold before they're dry. They're still wet when you pull them out. So that's why I'm doing this. I could have done it out of resin, but I didn't really want to have to wait in between. And plus I was making so many. I use the fast resin that's a little bit more expensive. So I usually don't, if I have to make a lot of something, I just use the air dry clay. You know, it's just more cost effective. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and be doing this for a little bit because I've got quite a few to make. One thing too on your air dry clay, it is air dry. So you want to keep it in a plastic bag while you're doing it. And, you know, keep that bag sealed, because you don't want air to be getting to it while you're using your clay, because it will quickly dry up on you. And then it's you can't really reconstitute it. It doesn't really work. Sometimes, or most of the time, I take like a damp washcloth or something, and I put it in the baggie with it while it's sitting there. And the moisture just kind of, you know, because you're going to forget to close it right away sometimes, and, you know, that just kind of keeps it from drying out. And the way you do this is you basically just put it in there and then pull off the excess, and then I use that little plastic spatula thing, and I'll scrape off any extra off the back. But and then I lose like a piece here or there, like maybe, you know, something breaks, and I'll just, you know, recast that portion, maybe the whole thing, but that way I can just add it to it later. And after we do what we do, you will never even notice that it's been, you know, put back together. But having that cornstarch in your mold, that is key. It is really key. If you've ever done this without it before, and I love this clay, this DOS clay. It's just, I don't know. It's really, for what you're getting and how much, it's inexpensive. So here are all my pieces, and now what I'm going to do is I've got my green frame out, and I'm going to just kind of lay them where I think they'll look good, and just kind of, you know, move them around till I like where they're at. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't like 100% sure, and so now I'm just kind of putting them, you know, basically deciding where I want them. Like, see, I was going to put those holly up there and then the other long pieces in the middle. And then I realized, no, you know what? I'm probably going to just, not do that. And then it's really kind of funny how I end up moving everything around. It's nothing like I originally thought I was going to do it, but it still worked out. So, I mean, I think that it turned out pretty cool, but that's one of my pieces. I'm looking for my other piece because it fell off. It was like one part of the mold. It was really thin right there, so I had a couple of them where it broke off, but that's okay because we're going to glue these on, and you'll never even notice that it was, that I put it back together. So I'm basically just positioning everything where I want it. And I'm not too concerned about it drying out because that's what I want it to do. But I do want it to be flat. And so I'm kind of wanting to get things where, they're going to be. I don't want it to dry and then it be like, not flat and hard to glue down or anything like that. So now I'm just taking my Arlene's tacky glue, and I know a lot of people use wood glue and things like that, but this is all I had on hand, so that's what I'm using, and I've used it before, and it works really well if I leave it overnight, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be leaving this overnight to dry, but I do make sure that I have glue on every piece, and one reason I like to use the tacky glue is it does allow you to reposition it, and it will dry clear. So, and the cool thing about using the air dry clay is that you can kind of move them around a little because they're clay, and so that's what's good about that. But I'm basically just going to go and put all of these down, and then after I do that, the next day, when it's dry, I am going to come in. Oh, I'm sorry, not the next day. After I glue everything down, it's not even dry yet. It's still there, and the clay's not even dry. I'm sorry. I go in with my green, the same green, the antique green chalk paint. And I'm going to paint over all of these molds. And I'm going to use a soft brush because I don't want to smush my design down. And they're semi-dry, guys. They're not like, super smushy. And so I'm basically going to go in while it is still drying, okay, after it's been glued on, and, not move around my thing at the same time. And I go in with a softer brush. And what I do is I paint all of these. And the reason you do that is that you let it dry overnight after. And it keeps your air dry clay from cracking. Because a lot of times what happens is your air dry clay, as it dries, it will crack. And if you paint it, before it dries and then just let it dry with the paint, it tends to not crack. And so, basically, you just paint it after you've glued everything down. And the big thing is you don't want to pounce and press hard because then you'll lose your detail in your clay because it's still, it's still not dry. So, I mean, it's semi-dry, but it's not dry. So if you're pouncing on it, you're going to lose your definition in your mold. So you don't want to do that. So, and don't worry if you get it, if you have missed spots or whatever, because you can go back like the next day. The main thing you're trying to do is put paint on the mold itself. Not the mold, but the casting. I'm sorry, I said mold a couple times. It's the casting from the mold. You just want to keep it from drying out and cracking, and that's why you're adding the paint right now. And these, they're going to stay green. I'm not going to change the color later, but I'm just saying you can touch up paint the next day, which I do because you don't want to be taking your brush and like pouncing to get in all the crevices and stuff like that, because if you do that, you're going to mess up your clay. So, I mean, you want to cover as much as you can, put enough paint on your brush, but just don't be too hard on your clay. That's all I'm trying to say there. So anyway, I go and I do all of the pieces, and it takes a little bit because they're very detailed, but I think the end product is really different and kind of fun. And, honestly, I'm doing something different and it's fun. And, who doesn't like playing with clay, right? So anyway, after it's all done, I'm going to let it dry overnight. And I move it aside, and I'm going to go back to my little tin that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to take my milk jug paint, and I'm going to paint it milk jug all over. And it's just basically going to cover the whole thing. I'm not really trying to let it be known that it was a tin pan. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you wanted to, you could sand some of the milk jug off, and or you could do it like a darker color and then have that crackle or something. But so now I'm taking my clear wax, and I'm going to go ahead and cover this whole thing with clear wax. And the reason I'm doing that is basically because I'm going to end up putting an antiquing wax over that. And it's the same reason I did it on the other project, is that if you put the antiquing wax directly on your chalk paint, it'll absorb too much. So now we're going to get to the point where we put the antiquing wax on, and this is it's just stuff I had. Cream wax by Americana Decor. And it's just, I've had it. Actually, it's really kind of drying out, so I probably need to get some more, but I don't use it very often. So anyway, I'm just putting it on, and it looks like a big hot mess. I know it does, but because we put the clear wax underneath, we're going to be able to wipe most of this off. So, but I am telling you, if you've ever used chalk paint and you don't put the clear wax on, you don't get to wipe off all that much because it absorbs really quick. So anyway, you just do that, and then I'm going to take a wet wipe, and I'm going to come in and literally wipe off a lot of what I just put on. And on the little crevices and everything in the little pan, it looks really kind of cool. It gives it a very vintage look. And because this is a tin pan, again, this is going to be a magnetic board. So, and truthfully, you could have covered this with the chalkboard paint and made it a chalkboard and a magnetic board, for $1.25, and a stencil or whatever. So, just a thought, because I have done stuff like that before. And they also make, if you're not aware, they also make magnetic chalkboard paint. It's chalkboard paint. It's black, and you can write on it with chalk. But at the same time, it has, I guess, metal particles in it, so it makes things magnetic. So I put it in the middle and wiped it off, and now I'm going to look through some rub-ons, and these are okay, but honestly, I don't remember the name of them. I'll link it below, but they're really, really pretty, but they're a lot shinier, and I guess I don't like that so much. I kind of like the other ones because they have that matte finish and almost looks like paint. But, these were very inexpensive, and you got a lot of them, and I'm going to be using them later for other things. So for what I'm going to be using them for, they'll probably be fine. So I'm cutting off the top part of that stencil because I want the stencil to be up higher, and it was getting in the way. So now I'm going to go ahead. I'm using my black chalkboard paint. At first I was going to use ink, and then I changed my mind. And truth be told, I wished I would have kept doing the ink, because this bled quite a bit, and I had to spend a lot of time touching up, and it ended up honestly just not being what I wanted it to be. Just really, I'm probably just going to not, either I'll redo the part that was messed up, or but that's what I was talking about, bleed through. And it probably wouldn't have bled through, but I was just being very heavy handed with the paint. And if you're going to do that, you cannot do that, because it will go underneath parts of the stencil. And then if that happens, then, you got a little bit of a mess. Anything can be fixed. You can just go start over. See, you can see over there where days are kind of messed up. So I do go back in later and with the white paint and fix it as much as I can. It looks okay, but I just, later on I do it with ink, and it turns out better. So this is the rub-on that I chose, and as you can see, it is a lot shinier, but it is really cute. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to rub the whole thing, just go through the same process. So now what I'm doing is I am going through and I'm putting clear wax on top of the castings that we put on there, because when I put the clear wax on the whole board, I did not put it on the casting. So now I'm taking this wax brush that is kind of pointed, and I'm going through. I poured some on there, and I know it looks white, but it dries clear. I'm not a big fan of that wax. I really like the Moreland's wax, but I already had this, and I thought, well, I'll use it. I'm trying to use stuff that I already have, as much as I can. But it worked okay. It was very liquid, and I kind of like my Moreland's wax. I use it on a lot of different things. It's not Moreland's, it's Dorland's. I'm looking at it right now. Dorland, Dorlands. I use it a lot when I'm making journals, and when I use it on rusted things, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, what I'm doing now is I am just putting the clear wax on all of those pieces, because I did, and they're very absorbent. If you do not put the clear wax on and then you go to antique it or do something, it is just going to suck it in. So that's why you put the clear wax on. Or, actually you could probably put a sealer on it or something. But I just add wax on top of wax. That's just kind of how I do it. But so anyway, that's basically all I'm doing here, is making sure that I get all of the little crevices and cracks and all that kind of stuff with the clear wax. And, we already did the other green part and the white part, so that's really all I'm trying to do, is make sure I get everything. And it takes a little bit to get in there with that brush, because those castings are very detailed, and it does take a little bit. I mean, that's not hard. It's just, you just kind of have to realize, it's not like painting a flat surface. So, and I also go and do the middle, make sure that it has a clear wax on it. Now I'm going to take, after I let it dry, and I know you didn't see it dry, but I let it dry, I am going to be taking this brown wax. That's the Americana Decor cream wax. And I'm going to be putting it all over the green part. And eventually I'll do it on the white, but that's what we're doing now. And I'm making sure I get in all the little detail, little nooks and cranny. And I know it looks like a hot mess, guys. I know it does. But in the end, it'll look good. I promise. So anyway, I'm going to do that all over. And it takes a while, because you've really got to get in there with that brush. So you've got to have you really do have to have a brush that is kind of pointed like this one. I mean, I just bought this on Amazon. I'll link it. I mean, I'm sure it's not high quality, but it does help because the pointed part of it gets in all those little spots. I don't know that a regular paintbrush would do it that well. Now, you really cannot do this when your castings are wet still or soft because you would lose all the detail. That's why I let it sit overnight. I don't even go back that day. I let it sit overnight, and it'll be completely dry overnight. But because if I were to do pounce on this thing the way that I was doing with it without it being dry, oh my gosh, I would lose all of the detail. So then all I did is I go through and I take a wet wipe, and I'm going to be taking a lot of what I just put on off. Okay, I mainly did it so that it would go inside all of the little crevices and things like that. That was my main thing, and I'm still going to be putting wax on top of that. So y'all are going to be going, "Oh my God!" But I didn't say this was easy. I didn't do a fast and easy on this little thing, but I had been wanting to play with this stuff, and it's really fun. So, that's what I'm doing. So now I'm taking the brown wax, the same brown wax that I used on the green, and I'm putting it on the middle. And yeah, it looks like a hot mess, but it really does give it a more vintage look. Again, we're going to take a wet wipe and just basically wipe off a good portion of what we put on. And I'm telling you, if you didn't put that clear wax on first, you would not be doing that. It would just look like a muddy mess. So you have to put the clear wax on, or some sort of sealer. So anyway, I'm doing that, and I'm going to go ahead and just I'm just taking I would say 80% of it off. You put it on, take it off. That's all you're doing. You're just trying to make it look, just like we do with our vintage photo. You're making things look older. So now that I've done that, and I don't even know if you can tell on camera that there's any left, but there is. There really is. And it gives it that nice patinaed look, and I like that. So basically, after I do all this, you've got to let your waxes dry in between, and it does not take that long. Like I said, 30 minutes, and they'll be dry. But you need to let them dry in between. And so the next step that I'm doing, y'all are going to be thinking I'm crazy, but I am taking, this is white wax, not paint. And I'm taking that same wax brush, and I am going to just cover this whole piece in this white wax. Okay. It's going to give this piece kind of a, like a, I don't know, like it's been dusted with snow kind of look. And the brown just accentuated those pieces. You'll see in the end. It really looks good. But right now I know you're like, oh my God, what did you do? But anyway, so I'm taking the white wax, and I am basically going over the whole piece, and I'm covering the whole thing in the white wax, and then I'm going to be wiping again. This time I leave a lot more on, because the thing is, I like the green, don't get me wrong, but I want it to be a lighter piece. I don't know how to explain it, but I just have a different end result in mind. You definitely could have skipped the dark and went straight to that, but it does make a difference when you put the dark on, because it kind of gives it another level of another layer, and I think it makes a difference. And I would have had to have put the dark wax in the middle anyway because it needed, you need to tone down. Even though that milk jug paint is not a bright white, it's a really good color. Um, it's too stark if you don't do that, especially if you're trying to get a vintagey kind of look. So I would have had to do that anyway. But what the dark did is it gives it another layer, another texture. So now I'm taking my wet wipe again. And see, look, I'm taking a lot of it off. So basically, you go around the whole thing and you just take off a good portion of what you put on. And you do have to kind of go in there. I had to take like a paintbrush in some of the spots and kind of, take some out because I probably overdid it. But, my idea was to make sure I really, really made those moles stand out. And the white wax does that, whereas the brown wax just kind of antiques it a little. And when you use both, it really accentuates it a lot. So anyway, I'm going to basically do that, and then I go in, and anywhere there's like too much, I just, kind of go. You can take a Q-tip or something. And then you have some time with this because you put the clear wax down again. If you had not put the clear wax down, pretty much as soon as you put it down on chalk paint, it's already absorbed. So good luck. So now I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put my stencil and what I'm going to put on there because I honestly had not even decided that yet. You would think if I'm doing all this work to this frame, I'd have an idea, but I don't. So anyway, I decide where I want my stencil, and I kind of decide what I think I'm going to put on. And I kind of, just audition it just to see if I like where it's at. And I'm not 100%. So I keep going back and forth. I have a horrible time making up my mind. If you guys watch my channel, it's so frustrating. And y'all are going, make up your mind already. But anyway, this time I did it different. I went ahead and used a makeup brush, from the dollar store. And I used my archival ink. You need to use a permanent ink. And I just, how you do with how you do with the makeup sponge, and you just kind of swirl it. And it did take a little to get it as dark as I wanted it, but I am very, very happy with the results with this. You'll see. Out of all the ways I did it, I definitely like that. Although, on the one on the chalkboard, you really kind of had to use paint. But, well, I guess there's white ink. You could use white ink. But anyway, I'm just basically going around it and making sure I probably should have used a smaller brush because once I got to the end, it was really hard to, not go off. And I do actually a little bit, but I fix it. You'll see. So basically, I'm just kind of going in a swirling motion all the way around. And if you've ever used one of these on a stencil, you know how good they work. If you haven't, you can pick them up, like I said, at the dollar store, and they really, really work well with stencils. So, yeah. So anyway, I am just kind of going around making sure I'm not moving the stencil. So that tape really helps with that. That's, I would recommend doing that. But okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and finish this up as far as with the ink. And what you're going to see is I kind of go over on the edge a little bit with the ink. But because I have the wax down, that clear wax, and also the other wax, I'll be able to wipe it off. You have a little bit of time, even though it's permanent. Now, eventually, if you didn't wipe it off, it would definitely be permanent. But because I just did it, it's not dry yet, so I could wipe that off. So now what I'm doing is I'm just taking all of my transfers and I'm putting them in position, just like I did with the other ones. And I've got that cute little truck that I'm going to put on there.
It's adorable. And I think it's perfect for this because you've got the green and then the red truck with the Chris. It's just adorable. I have to say myself, it's really cute. Anyway, so I got everything down and I'm going to go ahead and get all my other pieces down. And I did put a little bit of these little sprigs around the other part because, I mean, obviously this frame is wider, so I have some room on the side. I didn't want it just to be blank. And then I had some room on top. And then, of course, I'm bringing the color up. And, so basically we're just kind of spreading it all around. And I'm going to go through the same process that I did before. Making sure, use my stick, wipe it all down, rub it down, and then, pull up a little bit and check. Okay, so now I'm painting some little wooden ornaments that I bought. I'm not sure where I got these from. I think I got them from Amazon, but I don't know. I've had them in my stash for a really long time, but they sell these anywhere. So I'm going to paint those red, and then I'm going to do like a brass color, metallic on the top. And then I'm going to put some string on top. But on the back, what I'm going to do is I have some magnets. And this is going to go on the green and the red, the green and the white frame with the truck. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the string on top and then put a magnet on the back. And then I have these felt numbers that I got from the Dollar Tree in a pack, $1.25. And that's what I'm going to use for the numbers. And the magnet I'm just hot gluing on the back. So, and those little numbers I showed you, I'm putting on the little tray. I'm going to put magnets on those. So here's the finished product. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll have some more stuff like this coming up. Stay tuned.